Hi guys, I'm Asher. Today's video will be about 2 scenes that were not adapted during the first and second season. The main topic of the video is jealousy, as the first scene I'll be talking about is about Freya and her feelings upon seeing Bel and I's training together. The second will be about Ishtar, her uncontrollable envy and hatred towards Freya for everything she represents as a goddess. Now, about the channel situation. As you may have noticed, I have deleted most of the videos. I had to do it to solve the problem with the monetization of the channel. I have to say that for the moment it seems to have worked, so let's hope it continues like this. By the way, as a precaution, I have created a secondary channel, so please subscribe to that channel as well. Also, if you like my videos and want to help the channel, you can do it on Patreon or by becoming a member here on YouTube. The links will be in the description. But well, without anything else to say, let's get started. The Erario city wall was not only strong, it was massive. It surrounded the city like a ring. An uneven stone path sat on top of the ring and went all the way around the city. Citizens were forbidden to use it, so there was almost never anyone on the path. The purpose of the city wall wasn't to keep things out, but to keep things in. So the inner guard wall of the path was high enough that the path couldn't be seen from even the tallest buildings. It went without saying that it couldn't be seen from the ground either. The chances of someone seeing the two of them together was next to nothing. No one could spy on their training, let alone catch a glimpse of them. It was safe to say that Isa's plan to train Bel here, in order to avoid an issue between their familias, had gone very well up to this point. There was, however, a place from where their training could be seen, the highest room of the tallest tower in Erario, Babel. Sitting in a fancy chair facing the glass wall of her own room, Freya watched their training with interest. Even with the high guard wall, Freya's room was high enough that she could see over it, and watch to her heart's content. The goddess murmured that the soul of the sword princess was too bright, it was almost blinding. Freya was on the 50th floor of Babel Tower, in the middle of the city. The distance between her and the humans was much too far to see, but Freya's eyes were different. She could clearly see their souls shining on top of the wall. Her eyes allowed her to see the quality of any person's soul by color. She had those eyes on a clear, colorless, glowing spirit and an extremely bright, golden pyre of a soul. So there was no way her eyes could have missed them. She noticed them training beyond the early morning hours, and had been watching their training session all day. Freya, however, was becoming increasingly intrigued. The goddess smiled slightly, as she ran her fingers through her silver hair and behind her ear. While her faithful servant was setting the stage in the depths of the dungeon, the star of the show was receiving training from that female warrior, as her student. It would be the monster trained by Otar, against the human boy trained by the Kenki. Freya's heart was alive with excitement as she thought about this turn of events. It could turn out far more interesting than she had ever thought possible. Her silver eyes fell on the two humans for a moment. They were lying down, as if they'd fallen asleep. Freya watched their souls glow with a smile on her face. Her fingers restlessly hit the armrest of her chair over and over. Then, without realizing it, she started fiddling with her hair again. That's when she suddenly stopped moving. She'd finally noticed what she was doing. She grimaced and lightly laughed at herself and whispered under her breath. Freya couldn't believe she was jealous of the sword princess. For a god such as her, to feel that way about a child was absolutely absurd, and she laughed at herself for it. It was how she felt when Hestia and the boy were together. But this time, the feeling was much stronger. The fact that this golden pyre was shaping the clear light was a little, just a little, off-putting for her. A small bud of jealousy was starting to bloom in her substantial chest. Feeling irritated, she sat up in her chair, and looked out the top of her glass window into the clouds. A few moments passed, then she closed her eyes before opening them just slightly, and filled the room with her exquisite laugh. The goddess wondered how strong Bel was now, after being trained by eyes. Settling back into her chair, Freya's eyes once again fell on the boy. Her gaze was filled with an urge to tease him, and also with something a bit more vicious, jealousy. After that, she thought maybe it was time to have a little more fun with Belle, while a dark smile graced her lips. A sadistic grin reflected off the inside of the long glass wall of her room in Babel Tower. Night. Shrouded in darkness beneath the crescent moon, countless magic stone lamps dotted the cityscape of Aurario. Indeed, this city, blessed with the resources harvested from the dungeon, never slept, the hustle and bustle never ending. In this thriving metropolis that seemed to symbolize prosperity itself, there was a certain place. Flirtatious voices came from within the many small buildings that lined the street there. Sometimes strong and sometimes barely above a whisper, these were the voices of men and women consumed by passion. Flickering candlelight illuminated the pairs of shadows intertwining on many of the windows and walls up and down the street, forms braided on beds. Here desires turned into money, filled with bordellos as far as the eye could see. The aptly named Night District felt completely different from the rest of the city. Dimly lit and seemingly standing apart from all the other streets and neighborhoods, it was always permeated with a mysterious, bewitching atmosphere. That shithead. Where people indulged their cravings and appetites, the brothels. She sat above it all, watching from the highest floor of her own palace. The shapely woman was heavily accessorized with a golden crown, earrings, an ornate necklace decorating her cleavage, and bracelets around her wrists and ankles. The only piece of cloth on her body that could truly be called clothing was a thin skirt around her hips, held in place by a cord tied at her side. There was nothing keeping her voluptuous breasts from view, only one strap of cloth prevented her from exposing everything to the world. Her perfectly proportioned hourglass figure and silky smooth coppery skin, openly displayed, were enough to make any man lose his mind. Her beauty was strong enough to bring a country to its knees, her divinity simply took it one step further. Truly, gender mattered not when looking at her body, which could hold anyone prisoner as it exuded a sweet, alluring aroma. Her room was dark, illuminated by only the crescent moon and stars above. With the room open to the night air on all sides, she had a perfect view of the tower standing in the middle of the city. She glared at it, as if trying to burn it down with sheer intensity and loathing. She stood in the highest place in all the Night District. However, she wasn't satisfied. As for why, it was because of the chalk-white tower in the center of the city that pierced the skies, soaring overhead as though looking down on her, laughing at her. The woman stared daggers at the highest floor of that tower. That's where that vile woman would be even now, a goddess of beauty like her, the silver-haired goddess whom she hated most of all. Why are you there? Why is it you and not me who sits on the throne? Unacceptable. Absolutely unacceptable. That woman was always looking down on her from the highest perch. As if she were no different from the rabble when viewed from such heights. Her beauty allowed that goddess to take anything she wanted within Aurario. No, the world. And she was rubbing it in her face. That deplorable vixen. Unbelievable. Were all the children of Gekkai, and the other gods, blind? Ignoring her own unparalleled beauty and giving that their attention? Categorically inconceivable. Cursing that goddess with every fiber of her being, the goddess Ishtar's beauty warped into something much more frightening. Don't get full of yourself, Freya. Fully drawn curtains let in the moonlight, illuminating Ishtar in profile. The irritating truth was that that goddess was not only higher ranked in name but led a familia more powerful than her own. So powerful, in fact, that they could prevent others from catching up. For it was Freya's beauty, along with her powerful followers, that allowed that woman to keep her place at the top. Ishtar kept her eyes firmly on Babel Tower as a small laugh escaped her lips. The smile on her face was one that could charm anyone who laid eyes upon her, but it also hid a dark side. It wouldn't be long now. It wouldn't be long until she pulled that woman down from her perch. Ishtar's lips curled into a conniving grin. Just you watch. Spitting out those words under her breath, she stood up from the sofa she had been sitting on. A bowl of exotic fruit sat on a table with a long, thin smoking pipe made in the Far Eastern style sitting at its base, all beside the sofa. The goddess grabbed her pipe before exiting the room. Several handsome young servants followed right behind her as she descended into the center of the palace. Her braided black hair swayed from side to side and looked almost as though hues of purple were weaved into it. Smoke billowed from between her succulent lips after one pull from her oriental pipe as she descended to the top floor overlooking a grand inner chamber. Spread out beneath her were her followers. Ishtar put her hands on the railing and addressed the prostitutes below. "Now, ladies. It's time to ensnare new clients. Tonight again, drown yourselves in love to your heart's content." The crowd roared in approval. They were composed mostly of Amazons and contained a wide range from pretty, adorable girls to mature, sensual women. Ishtar looked down at their enthralling, lust-inspiring faces and couldn't help but grin. Her words were the signal for all the prostitutes to move out onto the streets. Some tried to get customers on looks alone, others called out to passing men, or still more directly approached the males who met their approval. The men had no idea that they were being hunted. Their thirst for pleasure emptied their wallets, spread information, relieved them of prized possessions, and surrendered their hearts to be devoured by the women in the brothels. And well, that was all for today. I hope you liked the video. If you liked it, please leave a thumbs up, share the video and leave your opinion in the comments. I will be reading your opinions. Also join Discord, there we can talk about DanMachi and even other animes. The link is in the video description. Best regards and see you next time.